this is a blueprint I put together that helps you determine whether you should keep an ad on or turn it off. The worst thing that you could do is or one of the things that I'll never do is I'll start an ad and then I'll let it spend $1,000, right? And then make a decision after those $1,000 whether or not it worked or whether it worked or not. So that's the worst thing you could do. So before you do that, you need to set up your KPIs, your key performance indicators, and these indicators dictate whether an ad is successful or not. But you don't want to wait till you spend a lot of money to decide whether it's successful or not. So a good benchmark, like I'm gonna run you through this guide right here, and this is what I use, but it's at the. I mean, you could base it off of anything, right? You could do it off of your clicks. You could do it off of outbound link clicks. You could do it off of leads, or you could do it off of book calls, even purchases, right? It's applicable to any type of ad. If it's a messenger ad, if it's, video views, if you didn't get enough video views, then you'll shut off an ad before you let it spend more. But the first thing you need to do is decide what your key performance indicator is. Which is the metric that you're going after? What's the purpose of this ad? Let's say, for example, we're trying to get book calls. Before any book calls, you need to generate leads, right? If that's the model that we're going after, right? The ad, the lead, and then the book call. So the last the main dictator, right, is the book call. So that's the cost per acquisition we're kind of going after. But if your book call, if it's costing you like $300 to get a book call, or $600, whatever that number is, whatever you could afford to spend to get a book call, sometimes you don't want to spend that much money to decide whether the ad is good or not. So you'll dictate whether you should turn off the ad or not based off of the lead cost. Whether or not you want more book calls, the first thing you're going to need to do is get leads, right? If you're following that model. And before you get leads, you need to get clicks. So you need to get a outbound clicks, right? Before you get outbound clicks, you need to get regular clicks. So that's kind of like the model, right? It's almost like an ascension model, right? So you could start off with the click model, right? Like if you spent $10 and it didn't get a click, you're going to want to turn off that ad, because it's telling you that the image is not resonating well with the audience that you're targeting it to, right? So two things need to be changed: the audience or the actual image. But you don't want that ad to spend more. If it's already spent $10 and you haven't gotten one single click, then you got to turn that bad boy off. So the second indicator, usually it's an outbound click, or outbound link click is what you call it, or a link click, whatever you want to call it. But if you're spending $10 to get a link click, I mean, I don't want to spend $10 to get a link click, and unless it's already gotten a book call or a lead, I'm not going to leave that ad on. If it did get a lead and the cost per link click is $10, I'll move on to the next number, right? Which is, how much is it costing me to get a lead? If the lead metric is under my cost per acquisition, the cap that I have for it, then it doesn't matter what the link clicks or the link cost is, right? If we're getting leads for, say, $10, I'm happy to pay $10 a click. If the lead cost at $10 holds and it's good. If we're getting book calls at $50 per book call, I'm happy with paying $25 a click, $30 a lead, as long as we're getting consistently $50 book calls. So it always goes, it's like a tier level model, right? Like, if you don't have any book calls, if you don't have any leads, if you don't have any outbound clicks, and their click is costing you $10, I'd shut off that ad, go back to the drawing board, come up with a different audience to target, or switch up the image that I created, right? If the outbound link cost is really high and you have no leads and you have no book calls, then I'm going through the same process. I'm turning that bad boy off, and I'm restructuring the copy. And if the clicks are good, then if the clicks is at a low cost, but the outbound clicks is really high, my next bottleneck that I'm going to try to widen up is going to be the copy. So I need to restructure the copy and try to try to write copy that generates lower cost per clicks. Once you get lower cost per clicks, the next step that you move on to is the lead, right? If what's the lead cost and how much is it costing you to generate it? What's the conversion rate? If what dictates the lead cost, I mean, it's the people that you're bringing through to the lead page and also the copy that's on the lead page. So those are the two things that you'll kind of change, the variables, right, that you need to change in order to get them to go to the next step, which is the book call. So it's the same thing. I mean, you could swap out the lead and a book call for a product page, right? Like what's the optimization rate of a product of that product page, and that's what it's kind of interchangeable, right? Like everything else down the line still stays the same, but this guideline right here, this blueprint, this kind of guides me through the lifetime of an ad, whether I should turn it off or whether I should keep it off. And these are the questions that I go through and I ask myself through every single ad that I create, right? So it always starts off right here. I'm going to go through this real quick. So you start the ad, you publish it, and then the first question you need to ask yourself is, has the ad spent 2 times your cost per acquisition? Now, coming up with your cost per acquisition, that's for another video that I'll record. But for right now, let's say, for example, my cost per acquisition is $100, right? So I want to get a purchase for at least $100, or I want to get a book call for $100. That's my cap, right? I want to get that, like $100 cost per acquisition. So if an ad has spent $200 and it hasn't gotten a book call or anything, then I'm going to turn it off, right? Because it's already spent 2 times my cost per acquisition, and I don't want to wait for it to optimize, because it could optimize, but then it can't, And what am I going to spend, like another $500 for me to decide to turn it off? Like, heck no, like I want to turn it off fast, like quick. I only want winning ads to be spending my money. So this, for example, so you ask yourself this question: has the ad spent 2 times your cost per acquisition? Has it spent $200? No? Then you got to keep it on, right? Keep it on until it spends the $200. Or if you're not doing the $200, look at the lead cost, right? What's your lead cost? How much do you want it to be? Let's say, for example, I want my lead cost to be at max $20. So if that ad spends $40 and it didn't get a lead, I'm going to shut it off. I'm going to say, no, heck no. Like, I'm not going to let this ad continue because it's not getting me leads. So if it's not getting me leads, chances are it's not going to give me those book calls. And it just goes down that route, right? So there's the leads, and then there's the clicks, the outbound clicks. So you have cost per acquisitions like set for each of these tiers, right? There's the links, the outbound link clicks, the leads, and then the book calls. Or if it's a purchase page, it's the links, the outbound link clicks, and then the add to cart, and then initiate checkout, and then the purchase, right? So you have a bunch of indicators that you could set that will guide you whether you should keep an ad on or off. But let's take a look at this. Whatever it is, right, you're going to ask yourself, has it spent 2 times my cost per acquisition? The answer is no. Then I'm going to keep it on until it spends 2 times my cost per acquisition. If it has spent 2 times my cost per acquisition, then I'm going to look at this route right here where it says yes. The next question is, did it, before I turn it off or keep it on, I'm going to ask myself, did the ad get a conversion? And if the answer is no, I'm going to turn it off. So if it spent 2 times my cost per acquisition and it didn't get a conversion, that ad is going to get turned off. If it did get a conversion, the next question I'm going to ask myself is the ad's cost per acquisition under 2 times the cost per acquisition? If the answer is no, then I'm going to turn it off. But if the answer is yes, I'm going to consider duplicating that ad set, or scaling it by 10%. So let's take a look at this example, this scenario, right? So if you're right here, it got 1 conversion, but you spent $200, right? And my cost per acquisition is $200. Once that ad spends $205, I'm going to turn it off, right? Because it's not under my 2x cost per acquisition goal. So that ad gets shut off. So if it did get two book calls, and let's say, for example, it got 2 book calls, so that comes out to like a cost per acquisition of $50, or even you spent $200 and you got 2 calls. What is it? $200 and you got 2 calls. You got a cost per acquisition of $100. So that's under your 2 times your cost per acquisition, right? So each call costs you $100, which is okay. That's under the $200 mark. So I'm keeping that ad on. And in addition to keeping that ad on, I'm going to consider duplicating that ad or scaling that ad by 10%. You don't want to scale the ad. And when I say scale, you increase the budget by 10%. If you scale more than 10%, you're going to run the risk of the ad going through the learning phase again, and it's going to re-optimize right from the start. So you don't want to do that. You always want to update it by like 10%, because it won't kick it back into the learning phase again. It'll just continue spending like normal. But if you duplicate the ad, I mean, that's a powerful way of scaling, because you're getting an ad that essentially worked already and you're duplicating it. So you have high chances of that ad working again at a higher budget. So this all depends on how much money you have to spend a day on an ad or not. So if your budget's like $500, and this ad set that's working for you is only set at 100, 100%. If you're scaling aggressively, I'm duplicating that ad set and I'm setting it to $200, $300. Hopefully it holds. If it holds, then we're good to go. But if it doesn't hold, then I'll just go through the same process again. I'll turn it off, and at a certain point, once it goes above my 2 times my cost per acquisition. Now this threshold, it just depends on you, right? Like how much are you willing to spend to get your result, and how much can you afford to spend to get your result? If it's not that much, then I like to trim fast, right? Like I don't like spending money. I don't like risking money on an ad that's not going to get me results. Like, I hate losing money. I hate gambling. I never gamble, but I follow this strategy, and it works out in the end, right? It's a good way to kind of set caps on yourself and go towards an ad campaign that's profitable, that's not spending more than what you're after, right? Like, you don't want to spend more than what you're making. So this strategy really helps you stay under that benchmark or that line. So everything that gets turned on, I always ask myself these questions right here, and that steers me towards an ad campaign that's really profitable, or that hits the goals, the whatever's under my cost per acquisition. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helps.